Got it.
Okay, welcome to the Trust Your Vision podcast, which this is a podcast about turning your dreams into realities and people who've done that. And I'm with somebody who did exactly that. She's a writer, she's a music journalist, she's a songwriter. And I challenge you, if you just read 30 seconds, if you go to the-icon.com of her work, and if you don't think it's amazing, it's just clear that you can't read. That's simply what it is. So welcome, Miss Ikonic. How are you doing?
I'm blessed. I cannot complain. It's nasty outside, but other than that,
Yeah, it is. I'm not for it. I'm not for it, but it is what it is. I wanted to jump in. We'll get into your story and everything, but on your site on the-icon.com, you had a story on there, and it was the power of just do it. That wasn't the exact. Give me the full title so I get the title right for everybody.
The power of a just do it mentality.
It's exactly what I said. It's exactly power. And normally, like how Matt started following you because we had similar posts and similar views on music. And and so once reading that article, and I'm just like, here it is again, because actually in my book, Trust Your Vision, on chapter 6, the first sentence is just do it. And the importance of, a lot of people think that for most things in success, it's some sort of secret. It's like when you see someone who's lost weight, everybody's like, what did you do? What was the secret? And it's usually like, I exercised, I ate better. So can you just speak to, the power of just doing it?
I think I'm impulsive, and I think a lot of successful people are. And sometimes I'm irrationally impulsive. I'm a little older now, so I do think, but I'm always the person that's like, well, just go for it. Because what's the worst that could happen if you give your absolute all to something that you want to do? You could fail, but that's a part of success anyway. You could succeed, that's great. And you're still going to fail somewhere along the way. So if you're afraid of failure, life is just going to be tough for you because it's inevitable. And they're your greatest learning experiences is your failures. So
real. That's facts. There's so many people just waste their time on like, what if this can happen? What if this happens? And like you said, I always look at it, what's the worst could happen? If that doesn't end in death, then do it.
Right.
Like you can, most things, like if you go do stand-up comedy and you get laughed out by people who don't know you, what's the worst that can happen? You'll never see them again. This is like, and usually the worst doesn't happen. It's all in our mind. So out of the three, I mean, you write about a number of topics and you're a songwriter as well. Which one of those is your most fun to do?
That's a tough one. Music has my heart. I absolutely love music, and I ran away from it for a while. I stopped songwriting for a while. I had stopped music blogging for a while. I'm really still getting back into that more in the indie scene because that's where I like to target, not like the Drakes and the Rihannas, but the people on the come up. But I also do like about writing about giving life advice now. Kind of my articles have shifted into lifestyles and relationships, and I enjoy that because I feel like I'm blunt about it. I don't sugarcoat it. But I feel like I'm that way about my music writing as well. But do note that I'm only going to praise music. I never write about music I don't like because that's somebody's art. I don't have to appreciate that art. I don't have to like that record, but I'm not going to write about my not liking it because I don't think that helps me contribute to society as a music writer. But there are music critics, which is fine. But that's not what I do. So it's a mix. I'm sorry.
No, that's great. That's perfect. I believe I pretty much, like I said, similar, do the same thing. I think that exactly that. If you don't like something, fast forward, move on to the next thing. Like, we, especially, as a creator and as a writer, how sensitive we are about our music.
Right.
Somebody put their heart and soul in it, and I don't need to see a bunch of trash cans, after somebody drops a single. Just move on and go. I think so much energy in general is spent on the wrong things. Mean, we know in our industry, it can be with, your different gossip sites, just about a bunch of stuff that doesn't matter. So I love that your content is has substance, and it's just not
Right.
about, who's dating who. So yeah. What
No
does that have
interest.
to do? What does that have to do with track 4? Like,
Right.
yeah. So writing, when did you realize like, this is something I want to do for the rest of my life?
Probably maybe 2019-ish. I realized, because I'm also working on a book that I don't know when it's going to come out, but it has a series of things. And one of the things that I talk about is identifying your constants, like things in your life that are constant. And for me, even when I was younger, I loved English class. My grandma used to take me to the library because we didn't have no money, and it was the free thing that we could do. So I fell in love with books because you could sit for hours with a book if you couldn't, afford to go to the amusement park or whatever. And I fell in love with reading, and I always liked English. And then writing, as you know, it's a tough career to get into. So you could wait for a publication to hire you, or the beauty is you could start a blog, and then eventually, they could see your writing material and they could go from there. But I didn't want to wait on those opportunities because they want you to have experience. And it's like, how do I get experience if you don't give me some? So your blog can be like your resume. And I have thousands of articles on my blog, and I love looking at my growth, like a blog from 2017 to one from now. I like the process. And that's how I knew that I liked it. When you don't enjoy the process and you only like the outcome, like I know I like to eat, I can't say I love to cook. You know what I'm saying? I will cook, but I can't say I love the whole process. I like the meal. A lot of people are obsessed with their outcomes and they don't like the journey. Just like weight loss. Oh, I love what you look like now. But are you obsessed with the journey to get there? So I like editing my writing. I like going back and rewriting. I like, oops, did I miss a comma there? I enjoy that. And that's one of the few things that I enjoy that with. So I knew it was a lifelong fixture when I knew I liked the process.
That's so key. That's just great wisdom there, because social media in general is a lot of just instant gratification, and people are just seeing the end results and they don't know like all of the work that it took you to write that article, all of the research that you did. And it shows when you have, but it just shows when you have other publications or gospel blogs or whatever who don't do the research, and, they end up having to recant something that they've written.
Exactly.
So you grew up in Pittsburgh, right?
Yes.
So how was that? How was growing up in Pittsburgh?
I grew up on the east side of Pittsburgh, Wilkinsburg. Well, I wish it would have been better. You know what I'm saying? I wish I had the upbringing that some people had. It was tight, but there was love there. Of course, you get into your scuffles, you lose friends early, that kind of sort of thing. But to be honest, I shunned away from the hood lifestyle. I was the smart girl. I was the girl that talked like she was white. I was the gifted student. I didn't have that allure, because I'm like, there is so much more than these 14 blocks of this hood right here. And I'm going to go see it. So I wasn't really sucked into my atmosphere. And I'm not a product of it, in my opinion, but I'm a product because of it. So I do like that it was a thing for me, because I think when you grow up a little disadvantaged, you got a hustle and a hunger about you that's different than if everything was handed to you. So I appreciate it. I have no regrets about it, because God makes no mistakes. So
not at all. No, that's real. And your environment is everything. And so the fact that you were so many people, coming from wherever they come from, get stuck in that. Most people don't leave their hometown. Most people, stay around the area that they grew up in. So what was that? What in that mindset was, I'm going to go outside of these 14 blocks. Was it something that you saw? Was it, the things that you were interested in?
It was pain. When I left, I graduated when I was 21. I got my bachelor's when I was 21. And then I up and moved to Atlanta, like on a humbug in 2015. I had a lot of pain. I had a lot of heartbreak, a lot of family things. And I was just running, really. But I also knew I didn't want to stay in Pittsburgh, but the pain catapulted me out. I was in so much pain of my environment, and it was too familiar that I'm like, I have to go. And I moved to Atlanta with like $200 in my car. And that's a whole nother story. But it was that sometimes pain can fuel you in a way that'll make you change or make you worse. It just depends on how you internalize it. And for me, I don't regret my first move to Atlanta. As you know, I am coming back February 26th,
back.
next week. So I'm excited about that, but I'm coming back so different. I'm so much stronger. I'm so much wiser. I'm older. I was 22 years old, when I came to Atlanta, but I don't regret it. And people that stay in Pittsburgh, it is a small town. It has limitations, I believe, and I don't see limits in myself. So I have to live in places that seem like they have no limit. And Atlanta to me is one of those places. People do get tired of Atlanta and whatever. That's your choice. There is no limit there. There's no limit in LA, London. There's places where I feel are limitless. So that's where I'm going to be. But home is still home. So I appreciate it for what it is. But living there, no. It would stifle my shine. Like I can't.
I get it. And that's just key. That's so key into going where your people are, going where your tribe is. And that was one thing saying with my move to Atlanta. I love home. From the DMV, PG County, but I'll always visit. I always go back. But for what I want to do, it's nothing like being around, so many of us that have the same ideas, and you just get so much energy and so many ideas from being around like-minded people.
Exactly.
That's dope. So you already answered the question because you're so good at this, and this is what you do, of how you got into the Icon blog. Is it something, or what's your goals with the blog? What do you want to do with it, or what do you want it to turn into?
You know what? I'm honest enough to admit that all I know about is the writing. The back end of it, the promotion, the ads, the whatever, that I really still have a lot of learning to do and would love to hire somebody to help with that, because that is not my strong suit. I believe there's nothing wrong with outsourcing the things that don't interest you. Because just like with Facebook ads, I'm looking for a Facebook ads manager for my brand. I understand them. I don't enjoy it. I can create the content and the garments, but as far as the back end stuff, there's someone who loves that, just like how to write and create. So I don't think there's anything wrong with outsourcing it. I definitely wanted to expand. But when I started my blog, originally I thought I wanted to be a PR, right? But I wanted to do it for producers. And when I came to Atlanta, I had met some producers that are now pretty big producers. But anywho, and I thought I wanted to work with them and represent them because they're such a vital part of the music creation process. They're the last paid, just like songwriters. And we forget about them. But then I realized, as much as I probably seem like a person, I'm really an introvert. So being a PR and kind of going out and being the ditty of a room really isn't necessarily my strong suit. I'd rather kind of be over on my laptop writing about what's happening. So I accepted that, but I want my blog to expand. And I know that it will. It's just about garnering my own presence, people knowing more about me. People buy into you. They don't care about what you do. They buy into you. People buy Yeezys for $300 because they're buying into Kanye. If I started selling Yeezys and I'm nobody, no one's buying a $300 shoe from me. I understand the importance of personal branding. And that's what I think will take all my endeavors to the next level is me, because you're buying me. I could write the most fire article because I know you've done it, I've done it, and 12 people see it. Because they don't care yet that it's you. I gotta make them care.
Yeah, that's right. And just getting into your tribe and getting around the people that also in that, because a lot of in the beginning, and I think a lot of entrepreneurs and creators get caught up in this. And in the beginning, I made that mistake of like the people following you, my friends and my family. And I'm like, why aren't they, people that I love and known for years, it's not following my page. It's not liking my stuff. I'm like, they love me, not necessarily, they may not be hip hop fans. They may not be into the music that I'm into, but you're gonna, when you have that, have you seen the Kanye doc?
I have not. I have to watch it because I'm seeing all these mixed reviews about it. Again, I don't bash people. I don't understand Kanye because I don't know him and I don't know his pain. And I think that there's a lot of judgment, but I don't know what the documentary is even about. What is it? It's like his early life or something?
Yeah, so it's a trilogy. And the first one that just came out is about, him basically coming into producing and got a lot of film when he was just locally doing it in Chicago. And then, you know, working with JayZ, and still people forget the gap that he took. It was a 4-year gap from like working with the biggest artists in the world to Rockefeller finally taking him, getting him a deal. And, you know, he had went to different record companies and they wouldn't take him seriously as a rapper. So it was just, I recommend it. New Kanye, like you said, I don't know, but that Kanye, it just showed the drive and the determination of like and it was pretty much what Trust Your Vision is just to keep going when sometimes people won't believe, like it was 4 years in between that time when he was producing all these, you know, records and not being able to put out anything on his own. So when you know, like someone like you got quality work, it's only a matter of time. Like you're doing all the work, you're putting in. If you put and I'm not even, this is like no gas, you put your article up against anybody in the New York Times, you put it up against Essence, whatever your, you know, dream publication is, like you can stand with anybody when it comes to writing. It's just, you know, it'll get there. I know it's like you said, that grind of seeing like 12 views or, you know, and it's like, I just put my soul into this. What do I mean? But it's only a matter of time before all of that connects. So was there a time, or can you speak about a time where you just had to follow your gut, where you trusted your, you know, shameless plug, you trusted your vision and you went somewhere where, you know, either your family or your friends didn't really suggest that, or societal norms said this won't work, and it worked?
I have to keep reverting back to going to Atlanta when I initially went. Nobody was for that because, again, it was on a humbug. I stayed on my friend's floor in Kennesaw campus for a while. It was on a humbug. I had met on Instagram, I had met one of Mike Will's engineers, and he had a studio right down there on Walker Street in Atlanta. And he wanted like an intern, and he wanted some help with the studio. It was not paid. It was just an opportunity. And most people don't say move to another state from Pennsylvania for an opportunity that doesn't have any money. Atlanta's job market at that time was crazy. If you remember Atlanta 2015, everybody was in Atlanta. I was fresh out of college. I didn't have any experience. It was not a good idea. My mom, gosh, probably one of the hardest things I've had to do was drive away from her to drive to Atlanta, like bawled my eyes out, because she knows me though. If my mind's made up, I'm going. You can't stop, and I'm going. And whatever hardships come with that, I'm gonna eat that. And I did. So nobody really advocated for me to go when I went. They wanted me to go when I got more on my feet, but I don't wait for perfect timing. You will miss a lot of opportunities waiting for the perfect time. There's no such thing. It wouldn't have been a perfect time for me to go because it would have just been harder for me to go. So I up and went, and it was a journey. I mean, Atlanta is a tough place to survive in, not cost-wise. You know, it doesn't cost like New York and LA, but I'm talking about just survival. And being able to discern between the BS and what's real. Everybody does something in Atlanta. I'm a producer, I'm a this, I'm a that. You have to be able to know who's really what they say they are.
Right.
Can you see me?
Yep, you good.
That was my girl. And then also, this is a whole nother topic, but I'm a woman. That in itself in Atlanta, in the music industry, is difficult. So my family also didn't like that. You know, people think I'm taller than I am. I'm 5'1". I'm 130 pounds soaking wet. I'm going into these studios with these drug dealers, and you know, so it's not the safest environment. Everyone's worried, praying crazy, but it was my journey. I was gonna do it regardless, and I have no regrets about it. Do I wish I had been more prepared? No, because I learned from my lack of preparation. So that's what I mean by just do it, just go for it. Because I could have just went back home. Okay, life is all right, go back home, you know, and fix yourself up. But I didn't. I stayed for 4 years. So, and then I moved to Philly. My dad and my brother live here, but I'm not from Philly. I don't know why people think Philly and Pittsburgh are the same place. They're not. They're 4 hours apart. And this has been a great reset. And so now I've reset, and now it's time to get back to it.
No, that's amazing. I want to talk to you because you hit on this earlier about it calling you back, because the same thing happened to me. And when you're really supposed to do something, when it's purpose driven, it's a lot of people that do, especially in all those major cities, Atlanta, LA, New York, that do things for clout or the look or whatever. But when you really are purpose driven and you really love what you do, life won't let you give it up. So can you talk about just that moment of just like, oh, I got to come back to this? What led you to coming back?
I'm a planner person, right? So I like to write everything in my planner, check it off, whatever. Usually creatives are not also the analytical personality, but I am when it comes to my task. What I don't pencil in is creative time. So one day I was just like on YouTube looking at like YouTube beats, because YouTube beats are your friends, right?
Yeah.
And I just started writing music again. And this was probably about 6 months or so ago. And I came to Atlanta 3 times last year. And each time people were like, let's go to the studio. You want to write? You want this? And I'm like, no, I'm good. You know what I'm saying? I wasn't feeling it. And then I realized, like, are you just running from it because it's been so long and you don't think you're good at it anymore? Or do you genuinely not want to do it? And I'm like, no, it's not that. It's just because there's good and bad music. That's just the truth, right? So that's just the truth. It's not really no silver lining. There's good and there's bad music. And so my thing is, I always want to be the best at what I do. And so when you're a songwriter, it doesn't work that way. You're going to have to write 100 songs sometimes before one of them kick off. Mm-hmm. And it's about like that process. And once I started writing again, I send like voice memos to friends and they're like, yo. I'm like, yo? And they're like, yeah. They're like, okay. So like, maybe I should get back into this. And I asked my honest friends, not my yes friends, not the people that, I don't know them, honestly. But I asked my people that are going to be like, you know what? I like that. I don't like this part, but I like this. Mm-hmm. And so I got back into that. And it's kind of just been going from there, but I don't force it. I write when I want to. Just like I wrote something yesterday that I sent to an artist that I work for. And it was like an accident. I was on YouTube looking for other stuff and I accidentally clicked on this beat, and her husband's a producer, so he can remake it. But it was like an accident. I like to just fall into my creativity. I don't want to schedule it. If it doesn't naturally occur to me to do it, then it's not what I should be doing. So
facts. And
people should know that.
Yeah, nah, that's real. And usually like those are the biggest records from all the different artists that I've talked to. And I know you've experienced this in your world doing interviews as well. It's always the ones that are just organic, that they're not coming trying to make this hit record or trying to sound like everybody else. It's organic and it comes creatively. So that's amazing. So coming to Atlanta next week. So what are your plans? Like, what are you jumping into?
I got to get back on the scene. Mm-hmm. That's going to be the tough part. Get back into events, start networking again, and being me while I'm out there. This me is easy when I know you. It's different when I don't. But I met a lot of people on a humbug while I was out. It's when I wasn't thinking about it, taking my head out of the networking and just enjoying the event. Getting back in with my producers and studios, etc., and just kind of hitting the ground running, and obviously working out, because dude, I don't sleep on the body. That is a health as well. Like, I gotta look good and feel good. So, but also not overwhelm myself. I want it to be a transition, but not like you gotta go to this, and that. There's always something to do in Atlanta. I'm not doing it. So it has to be a healthy balance. I'm not 22 anymore. I also don't have the energy I had when I was 22. I used to sleep for like 3 hours, get up, go to work, and running off passion, really. I can't say I probably have that in me anymore. Now I need my 8, and I don't have in it. I'm not Diddy out here. I need my 8, and I'm okay with that. Maybe 6, but not 3 and 2 anymore, or not no sleep at all. So, but I'm just excited to get back, and it puts a fire under me, Atlanta. It makes you want to do something. You got to be doing something. Philly allows me to be complacent. I got my dad and my brother, my nana, and I'm not a complacent person, and I don't grow from that. So I knew, I'm like, I gotta get back, but I don't want to move somewhere where I don't know anybody, like LA or Texas or something. So I'm excited, but it's going to be a lot of work. A lot of things have changed. A lot of people have changed. But I got to do what I got to do.
Yeah,
So,
I'll plug you in what I can, and you'll see, and
thank you.
I got you. You know what Atlanta is like. Most people are really, what I love about the city is down to collaborate. Like they don't have
Right,
even in the, no matter on any level either. Well, it's some levels like when you're dealing with major artists, and they got a lot going on, but for the most
right.
part, people are definitely willing to work together, and that's what I love about the city. That's the energy that I love. So you're gonna come and hit the ground one and fit right in.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's gonna be dope. So who are you listening to right now?
Oh my gosh, I was on TikTok and I don't remember his name, but I'm about to pull it up. And this guy was just walking up to people with their headphones in on campus, asking them what they were listening to, weird things like that. I found this guy. His name is Montel Fish. Don't know if you ever heard of him. He
No.
has like Frank Ocean. I don't
Oh.
know. It's just a vibe. Whatever the genre of vibe is, he fits into vibe.
Mhm.
So I absolutely love him. I don't know where he came from, but I heard him on the TikTok. I'm like, who's Montel Fish? Let me go see who he is. And I think he's like a producer. To be honest, I don't know if the music is him or he's producing it. I have to look into that. Either way, it is a complete vibe, like on some Frank Ocean type. I also like Teddy Swims. He's in Atlanta. He's a very talented vocalist. But honestly, I'm getting back into it because I am an old school Big L, JayZ, Mary J. Blige, Emil, Ja Rule type of listener. So the problem is you can't just listen to those people when you're trying to create music of right now. I pull those elements, you know what I'm saying, that make that music iconic, but I gotta also listen to what's out now. I do like Summer Walker. Of course, I love Money Long. It's Money, not Muni. Did you know that? Anywho, yes,
I did not know that.
Allegedly.
Wow.
She used to be Priscilla Renee, and I wrote about her on my blog when she was Priscilla Renee. Funny enough.
Oh, yeah, I remember.
Yeah, so I love her, and I'll listen to a little Fivio. Was it Fabio Florence?
Yeah.
When I'm like in the gym, and I appreciate like the 21 Savage, and I like Ella Mae's new record. But I have to get away from my old school playlist. Like it's my comfort music. But I also do listen to newer artists. It's just you gotta be like, it gotta be good.
Yes.
It gotta be good. I'm not gonna listen to it because everybody else listening to it. It got to be good. So yeah. And I love UK singers. Like I love Mahalia. I think she's so dope.
Yep.
I also like what Shinsia is doing. She's not from the UK, but she's from I like what she has going on and what she represents. But yeah, I think I also like Summer Walker. I think she gets a lot of slack, which I don't know her. So I don't know what she experiences. I do think she has an anxiety around, but it's like, have you performed in front of thousands of people? Everybody that's talking some type of stuff doesn't do that. So
send in a comment.
That's what I'm saying. Like in some people, I think she could work on her stage presence. Yes. But one thing about Summer, she sounds just like the record. Stage presence or no stage presence, she sounds just like it. How many artists can say that about right now?
And the fact I think is even because of how her personality and how she's viewed in the media. I think it's a testament that she's blown up the way she has because it's her music. Like she's a dope writer. She has great producers. She's a great singer. It's her music. So you can't deny whatever it is, whatever you want to talk about, whatever, like you said, personally, let's separate that. What's the music? The music is dope.
It is. And you know what? I didn't like this album at first that she just dropped. Still over it. It was not a first listen. Just like a Wale album's not a first listen. It's one of those albums you got to listen to kind of over and over. And I also wasn't in the space she was in. I'm not heartbroken or, that kind of sort of, but also good music, like not gonna cry hit even when you're not trying to cry because it's a classic. Like it don't matter if you sad or not. When that song come on, it hits. Same thing with Toni Braxton, any of her music hits whether you're sad or not. So now I have come to appreciate that album. But at first I was like, it was a tough follow-up. Very tough follow-up. My first album was so good.
Right.
It almost kind of sucks when you drop a first album that's so iconic. Just
Yeah.
like I still don't think that Drake has topped Take Care, but I love Drake and I think he's had great albums. But I love Take Care. It's like a really tough. The features, oh my, phenomenal.
Production, yeah. I think
crazy debut.
Yeah, and that's hard because you're experiencing something new for the first time, and it's like, what is this? Usually, it's something that hasn't, that the industry needed, and then so sometimes certain artists make the mistake of trying to duplicate what they've done instead of moving on to the next thing. But that feeling, and it's also where you're at in life. Like, I think a lot of what your favorite obviously the music has to be good, but when I think about my favorite albums, you can put putting hairs about different, everybody's gonna say Reasonable Doubt, or I actually like American Gangster better than Reasonable Doubt, but I know.
Okay.
But Reasonable Doubt is obviously a classic, so is, I think, American Gangster. And a lot of JayZ's work, but a lot of music for me depends on like where I was at in life and what that music did for me. Like, classic is a classic, but I agree with the Summer Walk. I have to get back into it. That's a lot of thing also that people don't have patience now because it's so much music, and I hate when an album has been out for 4 hours and people are like, "Oh, this is trash. This is the worst." Like, how do you know? Like, I go back to 808s, Kanye's 808s and Heartbreak, and I hated that album when it first came out. I was like, why are you, doing auto-tune? And then once I saw him perform it in the storytellers, I was like, oh, this is a dope piece of work. So a lot of people don't have that patience to do that. And I like what you said. I resonated with, it's just covering this music now. Is for me too, like, it's so much of it, and it has to mean something to me. And we have so much great music that we've had in the past. Like, finding new music for me, I have to be inspired by it. So, yeah. Where do you go to like find your, all of those artists that you mentioned? I know you mentioned TikTok, and
TikTok's a good place, but TikTok's a place you find them once they've already blown. Once the song has hit viral sensation, that's how it ends up on your For You page in the first place. So, and but it does adjust the algorithm where I do find, random new singers. Like I don't know if you ever heard of Layla Samia. She's a very, very talented vocalist. I found her on Instagram by accident. It was like just kind of scrolling through Tidal's Rising category, because I use Tidal, I don't use Apple Music. There's a lot of great artists in there that I find sometimes. YouTube is definitely your friend. That algorithm, like when you find one artist you didn't know about and then you look through the other videos, and sometimes it's submission. Some people do submit music, but because I've stepped away from it, people don't do it as much as they used to. So I'm definitely going to get back into that, because sometimes I found them because they submitted music. But yeah, that's typically how I find them. I'd say Tidal, YouTube, Instagram, TikTok as well. And sometimes word of mouth. Like sometimes someone will tell me about somebody that they're like, yo, you got to listen to such and such. I love that as well. Because people know what I like. People don't typically send me some music that I wouldn't appreciate. Like I love Jacob Banks. He's one of my favorite artists of this generation, period. I think he's absolutely flawless. When I mean vocally, his music is so cinematic. It's large, it's grand. I think, and that's what I'm working on even as a songwriter, making the music sound full. That is you hear a record versus a song. What fills up, and it doesn't have to be words. Sometimes it's production, it's ad libs, it's a lot. But he makes really full music, even though it's not. Blast does that same thing for me. I love Blast music. He's very nostalgic, but I like what he does. So yeah, it's typically, and I'm getting back into it because I try to stay away from too much mainstream music, but I do listen to like the Billboard 100 for songwriting inspiration, because it's like, what is charting? Why is it charting? And I advise that for any songwriter, do the Billboard 100 homework. I'll listen to a song and then try to recreate that same thing. And because there's a reason why that's popular, history repeats itself. Don't do it exactly like the record, but like inspired by. So, yeah.
No, that's good, especially in the music industry. Like once something catches on, everybody's like, okay, let me do my version of this. So
Right. Right. I mean, if it's not broke, don't fix it.
yeah.
So.
So let me get JayZ's greatest album. What would you say it is? Give me a top 3 JayZ albums, because you know that's your favorite dude. That's your GOAT, right?
I am obsessed with Reasonable Doubt. He has not topped it. To me, I do not care for the Black album as much as I care for Reasonable Doubt. My definite fave. Each one of the blueprints could stand on their own, but I personally like the second one. And I honestly love 444. And I'm gonna tell you why. If we're talking about hip hop artists with a long-standing career spanning decades, he is one of the only people that has never fell off. Don't give me Wayne, don't give me Eminem, because they have fallen off. I love them, they're talented, but they have fallen off. We're not talking features, we're talking albums. He has a myriad of albums that are just, you could try to pick it apart, but he's already done it. So it's already flawless in whatever way it could be sonically, even if it's not your favorite vibe. So I definitely would say those are my top 3. Reasonable Doubt, second Blueprint, and I love 444, because that growth right there, to be able to make music for a span of decades and to not fall off, to be able to change your commentary, because he's not a drug dealer anymore. He's not hustling anymore. Now he's buying art and buying Beyonce an album, and he still can be relatable. None of us can do JayZ stuff, and yet we still feel like, yo, I feel that. And Marcy Me was that grown man Rick Ross aura type of album. And it was just, and he's getting into more Black rights, and it was impeccable. He don't got to do nothing else. I'd love to have another one. He don't got to, but versus Nas, I don't even understand the comparison, because he doesn't have the body of work. He doesn't have the body of work. He's good, but he's not JayZ.
Now, when we talk about, to me, that's a personal, like, does he compare it to JayZ when you're talking about hits and, no. But that's not what Nas is. Like, to me, 444 is definitely growth, amazing, classic album. But Nas has been, like, doing that for him. He's been that, like, grown man, writing grown man stuff for a minute. And all of his stuff, like you said, it's not, no one, if we're talking about numbers, look, no one is matching with JayZ. And I acknowledge he had the least, I think he fell off least more than, or he's fallen off less than anybody else. But Kingdom Come, I think it was just because he had so many good follow-ups after that, people forget, like, Kingdom Come was a
good album.
What was that?
I said that was a good album.
You like Kingdom Come?
I do, because I think Kingdom Come gets a lot of slack. Number one, if we just think about the promotion for that album at the time, he didn't push it. So it's like, you're not really believing in it that much, so you really can't expect us to. But I think that I'm a lyrical person, hence why I like my Big L's, my Method Mans, my Redmans. So he's never going to falter there.
No.
But they're not my favorite records. You know what I mean? But he's not going to falter on the bars. He's not. And he's pretty good at picking his production too. I think Rick Ross is probably top tier at picking his production.
Yeah.
His production be top tier. But JayZ has Guru, and Guru gives it quality sound in any environment, headphones, car, whatever. So, but it's not my favorite. No. I like that album.
No, I agree. I mean, you're never gonna say, like, Hov is never gonna be slipping on the bars. So I'm gonna give what we have called a quick hitters for Trust Your Vision. Just like, if you like, what do you think? What would you choose? Usually it don't have to be one sentence. You can answer it however you want to answer it. And so, favorite album of all time.
I hate to do it, but it's Reasonable Doubt.
You know what I'm saying?
Reasonable Doubt.
And give me a little bit of why.
I think hip hop, for one, is my favorite genre. A lot of people think it's R&B. It's not. I love hip hop. Hip hop is Black culture on audio. There's no way you're going to be able to tell Black history without hip hop. From
100%.
Grandmaster Flash to that's our whole lineage on albums. It is the most therapeutic genre of music for me. And I think Reasonable Doubt was so flawless. And for it to be his first, people have not made an album like Reasonable Doubt in 20 albums. He did this on the first one. I think for that to be his debut, the features, the Biggie, the Mary J. Blige, he just, to me, and people didn't slept on that album until years later. It didn't get the acclaim until it wasn't hot when it was out. But for me, and especially if you're a writer, listening to how JayZ flows, studying that as a songwriter, as a rapper, as a whatever, it's going to make you better, because he is the epitome of an expert lyricist. And he doesn't even really write most of the time, he says. So that album, to me, it is Black culture. It's what hip hop should sound like. And that's why I like it. I understand that we've evolved into subgenres like trap or whatever some of them other kids be doing, you know, little Kodak Blacks or whatever. I like it, but hip hop sounds like JayZ. Hip hop sounds like Method Man. Hip hop sounds like Little Kim. Hip hop sounds like Big L. That is what it's supposed to sound like. And yes, it sounds like Grandmaster Flash and whatever, but I needed that to fall in love with hip hop. That is the album that did it for me. That, and I love Big L. His debut album is raw. It's so raw. It's so unpolished. You know what I'm saying? And it's so rough, but it's so hip hop. Hip hop is street corners in Yonkers. It's not whatever be going on right now, to be honest. But I can appreciate that that's somebody's art, but I'm not going to call it hip hop because it's a Black person doing it. That's another thing. Just because it's urban sounding and they're Black, we call it hip hop. And it's like, that's rap. Yeah. And it's just rap, right? It could be just rap. So to me, that was the album that made me fall in love with hip hop. And to be honest, music, period. Because there's R&B in that album. There's a lot of different vibes out. Yes. So it's in live. Anyway, I love that album.
Okay, your life mantra, words you live by, any phrase.
Life mantra.
TikTok says don't do a live, laugh, and love.
No. That is a tough one. What is my mantra? Sorry, but it's a JayZ bar, and I have it tattooed on the back of my thigh. But my mantra is probably, I'd rather die enormous than live dormant. That's how I'll be on it. You feel me? I would rather die enormous, having tried and did everything I could, than to just exist. And I talk about that in my most recent article. Like, I'd rather go get it, fail, fall, go broke, whatever, than to look back on life and be like, damn, I didn't take no risk. I lived real small. I didn't try. I would much rather die enormous than live dormant.
Hey, definitely.
Sure.
It's the same vibe, but I mean, that's really that line, inspire, get rich or die trying. That's the same like mindset. That's exactly. Okay, so let's get your social media and your website and where people can find you and your merch that you got on that's shining.
Yes. So at Miss Ikonic on everything, and that's MISSIKONIC. So you can find me on Twitter, on Instagram, on TikTok. All of that will be Miss Ikonic. My brand is Culturally Appropriate with a K, and that's the same everywhere too. On Instagram, it's Culturally Appropriate, and it's culturallyappropriate.com. And then on Twitter, it's B Culture, because you can't have that many words. Anyway, and for my blog, it's the-icon.com, like you said. And then it is at @theicon_ on Instagram. And that's the only social media I have for my blog, because I find that that's where it's best received. So sometimes people have an unnecessary amount of social medias, and I just need to target the one that's best for your niche. So yeah.
Yeah, that's a gem. No, I appreciate it. Well, I appreciate, your time. I appreciate all of the energy and the answers and the wisdom that you gave, for sure. And definitely when you come through Atlanta, I'll plug you in and, let you know what I don't know everyone, but what the people I do know and the events that's going on, I definitely plug you in. So I appreciate you doing this. Thank you for joining the Trust Your Vision podcast.
And thank you so much for having me. I
You're
appreciate
welcome. No problem. All right.
it. Alrighty.